So hello and welcome to the March 2018 edition of the Amsterdam Film Show. My name's Kathy and we have with us David Swatling.
Hey.
Cool, so we've been getting together for quite some time to talk about films, but we just had that kind of denouement of the film season with the Oscars. What were your thoughts?
Well, I thought, to be honest, staying up until 6 a.m. and getting very few surprises was very tiring. I don't know, maybe it's my age. It gets longer and longer. But, I wasn't unhappy with the results, even though there were no surprises. I really enjoyed The Shape of Water. I enjoyed the performances of Three Billboards. I was a little surprised by Three Billboards not getting Best Original Screenplay.
Oh, yeah.
But I wasn't unhappy, even though I haven't seen it, about Get Out.
Yeah.
And there seemed to be a local connection.
Oh, here in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah. Jordan Peele has spent quite some time in Amsterdam, lived here, and performed at Boom Chicago.
Oh, that's why some of my friends were congratulating him.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. He talked about how long it took him to work on it and to write it, thinking it would never get done. So it's entirely possible he wrote some of it here.
Yeah. It just shows you can go on from, local comedy improv theatre and then be an Oscar-winning, film. Even though it was, kind of what you expected. Do you ever think, no, I'm not going to stay up till 6 a.m. to watch it this year with the time difference here in Amsterdam?
Probably not, because I'm an awards show slut. I'll watch any awards show. I watched the BAFTAs a few weeks ago, but you
only have to stay up like
I know that's at the time.
An hour.
The time difference is not negligible, but still, it's a fun thing for me to just stay up all night and watch the whole thing live. I wish American commercials. That's the hard part of watching it here.
Oh yeah, they go on for ages.
But and they have nothing to substitute here with the commercial breaks, really. So
yeah, what was it on Net 5? And they just had this kind of chatter in the and a still.
It's as if you were there, sitting, chatting among the crowd. No, silly. It is better sometimes. I have seen they have done it in the past when they've had Dutch commentators putting their view on or their spin.
I wouldn't mind that.
And and also sometimes they should. I think they could do
the
that
Twitter
more
feeds.
the
they
Twitter
did it on
feeds and
Film
things like that.
They did that.
Although the commercials are long enough that you could go to the kitchen and make popcorn. How much can you devour in 4 hours?
No, they were really long because I recorded it on my DVR thing or whatever, and I was forwarding for ages to the commercials. On 30, 30, it was taking forever.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, those were the Oscars this year. They only happen once a year.
That's right.
We're going to start this show with the special screenings and festivals because some of them are very soon. There's Cinemasia, which is on until the 11th of March. Have you ever been to Cinemasia?
No, I haven't. I think that's one of the festivals that started after my journalist days of covering things like that.
Well, yeah, it was fairly new, but it's still been going for several years, and they're getting up steam. They've got a few new developments in their festival this year. So they've added a Best Performer prize. So that's honouring, an actor or an actress. You call them actors now, don't you?
Yeah, it's politically correct to simply use actors.
Actors, yes.
Yeah.
So, and they've used best performers, so maybe you can have people who are, I don't know, dancing or something. But anyway, they've chosen to highlight that because they want to raise awareness in Europe of the acting talent pool in Asia.
That's a big issue in Hollywood, certainly.
Yeah. So I think that's really nice that a local film festival is doing its part to kind of educate those who might not be aware, and to see more starring Asian faces. And I think that's great. As well as that, a dominant theme of the programming is youth, and that's also partly to aim to kind of go against the stereotype of the nerdy Asian characters, and so they're deliberately chosen films that are not those stereotypes. They've got new kind of young characters who are not the math wizard or something like that.
Oh, I think that's a good move on their part, because I know Dutch festivals in general tend to go for the social issues, the serious films, and which don't necessarily attract the young crowd. But if you mix up the programming I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. There's a local kind of Dutch and Asian kind of fusion going on in their film lab. And one thing they've got this year is they've got a short film called Inburgering 2.0, which is it's a local short production, really looking at that the absurdity of the inburgering process, and their film reverses it to comedic effect to show test Dutch understanding of Chinese culture. What if local Dutch were expected to integrate into the local Chinese community in the same way? And that's what they examine in this short film. So that's Cinemasia. It's on until the 11th of March at the Criterion and a few films at the Rialto. Another film festival this month is the Rosa Darken Film Festival.
My favourite.
Tell us, you've a long history with this film.
I've been going to Rosa Film Darken since it started 21 years ago. As a matter of fact, I was going to it before that, when it wasn't even called the Rosa Film Darken, when there was a little gay and lesbian film festival, Amsterdam.
Okay.
Even earlier. But for the last 21 years, they have grown from a really tiny little festival in like odd little venues like Cavia, which is teeny, to now a really large festival with more than 80 films, all shown at the Kettle House in their three different venues, and over 11 days. And what I always have liked about it, and it's true this year too, is this huge international range of films, the range of issues. Everything from the opening film is a musical comedy out of New York, to romantic stories, to social issue documentaries. They have a whole section this year on icons. There are documentaries about Grace Jones, Tom of Finland.
Oh, yes.
And one that I want to see, which is about the untold tales of Armistead Maupin, the author who wrote Tales of the City, which isn't so known to today's audiences because it's from, like 30 years ago he was writing that. And there's going to be some actors and directors and filmmakers there.
Oh, that's always brilliant.
To do Q&As after the screenings. So it's just a fantastic festival, and all in the Kettle House where there's a friendly bar and everyone can hang out in between films. And I'm really pleased to see how healthy that festival is now.
And it goes on, because there's a lot to fit in, it goes on till the 18th of March.
That's right. And I think a little later, we're going to talk about one of the films which is already sold out, but is going to actually have a regular run. So
the film is God's Own Country. So it's a British film. And it's part of this film festival, sold out the screenings at Rosa Darken Film Festival. But again, you might be lucky. But it's on general release in the Netherlands at the end of March, the 29th of March. But I have seen a preview screening.
Oh, so we can talk about that a little later.
Yeah. Another special series in March is at the Lab 111, and I love this. It's a farewell Daniel Day-Lewis kind of mini-season.
Oh, yeah. A friend was telling me that she was going to see Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, oh good. Oh, so that's the one she's chosen. All right, that's interesting. Because there's a lot, he's been in quite some big films. Mm-hmm. They haven't chosen all of them for this series. It's really only about 4 or 5. And the reason being, of course, because Daniel Day-Lewis has announced that The Phantom Thread, the new release at the cinemas, is his final acting film. I think he said that before.
Yeah, yes.
This is his last film. And I love it that Lab 111 is choosing to honour that. They've chosen, let's think, In the Name of the Father, The Last of the Mohicans, My Beautiful Laundrette.
Oh, I love that movie.
And There Will Be Blood. So those are some of the films you can pick from at the Lab 111.
I mean, he's just always great to watch.
We'll talk about this later when we talk about the film releases.
Okay.
No, I mean, we keep that in, but I've got more to say on that. So, the new releases in the Dutch cinemas this month in March. There's a lot of films, so I'll start off by saying the films we're not going to talk about are the animation Peter Rabbit, Tomb Raider, LBJ, Pacific Rim Uprising, the sequel, Mary Magdalene, Hostiles, which is a Western with Christian Bale, and Ready Player One, a Spielberg sci-fi, and more. We're not going to talk about those.
No. You just have to find out about those online.
In the beginning of March, we had Red Sparrow.
Aha. Which I went to see. What a surprise. It's not the kind of movie I would usually rush out and see on the first weekend.
I mean, it is a thriller, and you write
I
thrillers.
do like thrillers, yes, that's right. And I have to admit, I looked up a little bit about it and found out that it was based on a book, Red Sparrow, which won the top debut novel prize in two organizations I'm involved with, the Mystery Writers of America and the International Thriller Writers, and had been sold to the movies before it was even published. So that boded well in terms of the base material.
Yeah.
But there were some interesting issues about this movie that based on the Hollywood scene at the moment and the Oscars, the hashtag Me Too, and what sounded like was possibly, let's say, running a fine line between exploitation and empowerment. What would this movie have been like if it had been made today instead of a year or two ago?
Oh, interesting.
And I think that is an interesting question. Because, I mean, the story of Red Sparrow is pretty classic Cold War spy tale of, prima donna ballerina has an accident and can't dance anymore. So how is she going to take care of her sick mother? Well, she's going to be recruited by the Russian spy network and sent to a school for spies, which is really mostly for women, which is to teach them how to sexually entrap other spies or characters. Anyway, at the same time, a CIA operative gets kind of exposed when he's meeting up with a mole in the government. We don't really know who it is. And suddenly these two storylines are going to come together. Right. Now, when I talk about the writing, the author, Jason Matthews, was a former CIA operative. So he knows what he's talking about. It is well written. There's a kind of a cheesy factor in the sex.
The fake Russian accents?
The fake Russian accents. Why? Why did they do that? It's so terrible. But the story is there's full of twists and turns.
Okay, good.
And the actors, aside from Jennifer Lawrence, there's great performances by Joel Edgerton, Charlotte Rampling, what's his name? Jeremy Irons.
Oh.
They've got a great cast, and they're acting their hearts out. It's great. But I think in an attempt to make the film have more gravitas, they kind of slowed it down a little bit. I'm going to say I did fall asleep in the middle of it.
Did you really? It's a thriller.
I know, but that could be because I was watching the Oscars until 6 o'clock, that morning. But I think it's the pace. It's all takes in the middle. It has a great start, and then it kind of slows down. Now, some people like that, but I didn't. I just couldn't. I couldn't keep my eyes open. Unfortunately, I opened them right in time to see one of the worst torture scenes I've ever seen in a movie, which I will warn people. There's a reason why it's R-rated.
They don't show that in the trailer.
No, there's a couple of them, but the one I woke up for was really disgusting. There's something that gets a lot of hype in thriller writing these days called torture porn.
Okay.
Which is taking advantage of women are usually the victims.
Yeah.
This isn't always the case in this movie, but still, there's a line that's kind of crossed. So it's not for the faint-hearted.
No.
But I have to say it's an intelligent story. There was a twist near the end that I thought, yes, of course, and then there was another twist that I went, oh. Yeah, and then there was another twist, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Oh, that sounds good.
So it has all of that going for it. Maybe you'll like it. I think the audience seemed to respond well. I think this is going to be one of those movies the audiences will respond better to it than the critics. The critics are going to kind of slam it for, the cheesiness and the sexual, the idea that sexual exploitation of women in Hollywood is a big issue right now, and this movie just sort of transplants that into the spy scene. It's and does so with showing scenes of rape and torture and all that kind of stuff. It's a tricky one to handle.
What score out of 10 would you give this?
I think I would have to give it maybe around a 7.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah,
not bad.
That
goes against the Rotten
I tend to score
Tomatoes.
high. I tend to score high, but mostly based on the script and the acting. I think the script and the acting, was terrific.
Yeah.
It's just the pace bothered me, and then some of the torture scenes bothered me.
So, other films out already. De Wilde Stad, which is a nature film.
I saw a little bit on a Dutch talk show about that.
I think the cinematography looks stunning, so it may well be worth seeing on the big screen. And, of course, it's set in Amsterdam.
And Amsterdam animals.
Yeah. So it's all the creatures that we're really not aware of. The crayfish. I love the crayfish on the street with their huge claws. They can be really scary. And quite a lot of bird life.
And I saw a section, I don't know, is the cat a main character thread throughout it?
Yeah, it's kind of told through the cat's eyes.
Yeah.
So there is a kind of Dutch narration through it, but it's really language no problem, I would say, De Wilde Stad. So I would just give that a tip. It's the city from the unique perspective of the many wild animals and plants that inhabit it. So I think it's a real eye-opener. And what was it? I think, possibly to rival the BBC's Blue Planet.
Sure,
perhaps.
no, but listen, nature programs of any kind have gotten so popular on television. Why not put them in the cinemas as well? Yeah,
and with this one, you might even spot your house in it. Yeah. Also out in Amsterdam cinemas already, Phantom Thread. So it's a drama, director, screenwriter, none other than Paul Thomas Anderson. It stars Vicky Krieps, Daniel Day-Lewis and Leslie Manville, amongst others. The story... In 1950s London, Reynolds Woodcock is a renowned dressmaker whose fastidious life is disrupted by a young, strong-willed woman who becomes his muse and lover. Now, I don't know. There's two things that put me off this, because I didn't like The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson, but I did like Inherent Vice. And it's kind of bad, but although he doesn't make a lot of movies, I would say... I'm going through a bit of a Daniel Day-Lewis fatigue, because his roles, he always seems to pick out these really barnstorming characters, and they're very similar, like the butcher guy in Gangs of New York, and There Will Be Blood, Daniel Plainview, and even Lincoln, to some extent. They're giving these dramatic speeches, and they're always the centre of attention and stuff like that. And I don't know, I just think... I'd like to see him play a softer role, like the kind of roles he played in...
when he first started?
Yeah, in The Name of the Father and My Beautiful Laundrette.
Yeah.
They're always now these just one-note, people giving these long monologues and dramatic things. And he is this kind of old-school British, eloquent person. And I just kind of wanted something... I got bored, with that. So that's what's put me off this. And this character... this British fashion designer. It seems just another one of those types. Mm-hmm. But I wonder, in his last acting role, if he's kept something in the bag and, he's going to surprise us all.
It did win the Oscar for Best Costumes.
Yeah.
But then again, it's a movie about fashion.
Yes.
So
For a lot of people, they'll want to see a Daniel Day-Lewis film or they want to see a Paul Thomas Anderson film. So there you are. From the 22nd of March, we have another nature film this month called Mountain. And it's based on, I think, the books and the musings by Robert Macfarlane, a British writer. So he's a nature writer. I've got one of his books.
I've been following him on Twitter. He's fantastic.
Yeah. Wow. So I think he's well respected in that respect for his books and his thoughts. And they've actually gone full on and made what looks like quite a big budget nature film, because this scene, the shots are stunning in this. And that's why I've picked it out, really, because if you're going to go to the cinema to see a nature movie, these images look amazing. And especially for me, like, who I am never ever going to be going to climb a mountain myself. The nearest thing I might have to actually feeling like I would be at the top of a mountain would be going to see a film like this on the big screen. And now finally, at the end of the month, on the 29th of March, God's Own Country, another British film, is going to be released in the Netherlands. Now, this is a drama, LBGTQ. It's also having a premiere in the Rosa Film Dagen Festival.
I'll be there.
Yeah, but it might be you won't get to see it because it's sold out. It's on general release at the end of the month. It's cool. And if you don't want to go to cinema even, you can stream it on the UK iTunes and online. But I think it's best to go to the cinema.
I think so, because, again, this sounds like sweeping countryside kind of movie.
Oh, yeah, you wait.
Oh, that's right, you saw it, saw it. You lucky you.
Now, I didn't see it on the big screen, but I am a fan of Yorkshire, so I think it is a lot about the location, so that is a big deal. It will do well on the big screen. The story of God's Own Country. Johnny, a moody young Yorkshire farmer, struggles to keep the family farm going. A migrant worker brings extra help for lambing season, but also a lot of passion and some old-fashioned TLC. But is there really a future for them? That's how my synopsis of the film.
I mean, farm boys, immigrants, sheep and lambs. What's not to love?
Now, a lot of people talk about comparisons with Brokeback Mountain, set in Yorkshire. Not really. I don't see it that much, really. It's quite different. There's a lot more graphic sex in this one. So you see a lot more bare bottoms in full daylight as well, right on the hillsides. So there's no getting away from that. But I would say, don't think gay porn, think Yorkshire porn, because it really, that's what I'm saying, it really goes back to the setting. So, as a straight woman, for me, I just took away, there is this love story at the heart of it, but it's also a love story about Yorkshire and the farming life. And that also shines through really a lot as well. But the love story is very important. It's kind of, it starts off, there's a lot of tension there. And it's still at the end of, it's hard to say love story because, when you've got a moody Yorkshire person, most Yorkshire people are fairly kind of, they don't, go over the top, they hide their feelings a bit, I would say. That's a big cliche, but, they're not effervescent or anything. There's not a lot of the love expression and, declarations of love.
So but it's simmering underneath?
Yeah, it's a very quiet, simmering thing. And
he was nominated for a BAFTA for Best Breakout Performance. The
young actor. Josh O'Connor. And he is, he hasn't been in an awful lot before. And also the Romanian actor. This is his first English language feature film.
And he will be at the Rosa Film Dagen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's worth going to. He did a really strong performance. Both of the lead guys gave really good, strong performances with, they don't have a lot of experience, but they were so natural. Not any overacting, huge, looked completely at home with the farming life, and they are not farmers, they are totally actors. But they had quite some time preparation in the farm and getting to know the techniques, and I loved that about the film. You get really close up with delivering lambs, quite a few lambs, and also just the physical hard nature of the work, a lot of that, and I really liked it. It was done really well, and like I say, the actors just completely at home in it. There's a jarring character of the grandmother on the farm. She's played by a good actress, Gemma Jones, but she's you might well remember her from the Bridget Jones Diary as Bridget Jones's mother.
Oh, okay.
3 times she's played that role, and various other things. She's popped up in Midsummer Murders, I'm sure, and things like that. And she doesn't really pull off the Yorkshire accent that well, and it's just jarring to see this character, playing this dour Yorkshire woman and stuff, like moody and things. I could not let go of it. So that really ruined it a bit for me, which is hard. Nothing personal against this actress. I'm sure she was doing her best, and she's done things for the RSC before, so I'm sure she sees herself as a very serious actor. But still, no, it didn't work for me. I will say as well with God's Own Country. Well, first of all, the name God's Own Country, that is what kind of how Yorkshire refers to itself. It's really, it's a large area, but it's very, very beautiful. The character of the Romanian farmer, Georgia, he also says how beautiful it is, and there's that connection with the land. So God's Own Country, that's where the name comes from. Saying that, other thing I didn't really like about the film is that it's very one note. It's like got the same tone throughout. It's really intense. The director, and this is his first feature, he did say he was deliberately intense and, wanting to keep that going. But I'm like, why? Audiences shouldn't have to sit through this, always. They need to have some journey ups and downs and some breaks and some lightness. I get frustrated with a film without any humour in it, because I think there's always in life, and it's not a particularly bleak story. There was room for humour, and I think in Yorkshire, that is one of the best places. That they've got this kind of dry humour and all sorts of things, and there's a sad story and stuff in some respects there with the father of the film, so the grandmother's son and Johnny's father having a stroke and getting worse and worse and not being able to do for himself. But there's totally always room for humour, in my opinion.
I can understand, because I grew up with farmers, and they're pretty serious. I mean, the life is kind of serious. Yeah. So there's always the danger of inserting humour which makes fun of instead of makes fun with. Do you know what I mean? So that might be, something that he was trying to avoid. Who knows? I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing it anyway. You will definitely like it. One of the parts that moved me the most was the character George, when he kind of talked about his farm experiences with his family back home, and how he'd seen that small farming life die, and those small farms just can't survive. And he kind of speaks to Johnny about facing up to reality that his family farm will most likely die, and they can't really, in this society and capitalism of the big huge farms and supermarkets and things, they just can't survive this system. And that was really sad. He said it in a very, it was very personal, and for me that is also a reality. So I found that quite moving, because you could see the fact that farming life, yes, it's hard, but this is the life they love, and it's a shame that it will be dying out. But it's a story that's repeated across the world. Yeah, no, it's the same thing happened to my grandfather's family farm. Although it's a film, gay romance, I think it's got many issues that will, if you're straight or whatever, it's like it'll still speak to you. Sounds like I can't wait to see it. So those were our film picks for March 2018. You might have disagreed with us, but you can let us know. Tweet us at broadcastams or email us info@broadcastamsterdam.nl. Tell us what you thought if you saw one of the films released this month. But for now, thank you, David. Thanks, Kathy, for having me again. I will be back next month, probably.